Tournament Countdown 88, brought to you by Grant's Dairy. When it's as fresh can be, it's got to be Grant's naturally. R.H. Foster Incorporated, Hamden, Machias, Lisbon, and Caribou. You'll be comfortable with us. Beal College. Your future is looking up at Beal College. And by the Coca-Cola Bottling Company. Catch the tournament wave with Coke. And now, here's Channel 5 Sports Director Tim Throckmorton.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Tournament Countdown 88 Class A. In the next half hour, we'll show you the final official heel point standings for the 16 teams in Eastern Maine Class A. We'll preview key matchups and talk with players and coaches headed for the Bangor Auditorium 1 week from today. It's the cream of the crop in Eastern Maine basketball, Class A. We'll be back in just a moment. Victory has 100 memories, but defeat has amnesia. Tonight, before we talk about 1988, we should take a look back at the tournament that created the champions who are about to defend their titles. Here's Joe Carr.
Goes into Whitmore.
The quarterfinal round went according to form with no upsets. There were also a few close games. The average margin of victory on the boys' side was 16 points. Coney hammered Hamden in the most lopsided game, 78-55, to move on to a semifinal date with Stern. Waterville and Bangor both advanced too. The girls' quarterfinal featured the round's closest game. Caribou edged Skowhegan by 6. The Vikings earned a date with the mighty Coney Rams in the semis. Nokomis and Old Town also advanced, setting up a dramatic game. The Warriors' Bambi Lincoln gave Nokomis the lead late in overtime, and they held on to win by 3. Coney also advanced to the final.
Last year's Class A tournament featured lots of great finishes, but it's hard to match the end of the Bangor-Waterville boys game.
It was a battle from the very beginning. Waterville's Dick Whitmore and Bangor's Matt Nelson both played with fierce determination. The Panthers held a 1-point lead. Bangor had the last possession. They got it to Nelson, their money player. He missed by less than an inch. Coney went 1-1 in the title games. Their remarkable girls team beat Nokomis by 6. Their boys team bowed out, losing to Waterville by 16. Joe Carr, Tournament Countdown 88, Class A.
Thanks, Joe. Coming up, the moment we've been waiting for, we'll review the final Eastern Maine Class A boys heel points and profile the top team, a group very familiar with postseason play.
Hi, we're the Old Town Indian Cheerleaders. Stay tuned for more Tournament Countdown 88 Class A.
Back to Tournament Countdown 88. There's no surprise at the top of the final official standings in Eastern Maine Boys Class A, but with a lot of games this week, that meant last-minute movement. The top 8 looks to be well-matched.
Here's the way they'll line up. Lawrence finishes the regular season with the best record in the East. Only Portland High at 18-0 has a better mark in the state. Bangor has been sitting in the second spot for weeks. Waterville finishes third, and KVAC rival Coney has the 4th spot. Mount Blue is just a fraction of a point behind Coney. Nokomis of Newport at 12-6 is number 6. Brewers' win over Bangor last night puts them up to 7th. And Presque Isle made the tournament on the strength of a 1-point win over Stearns Thursday night. The Minutemen finished 9th.
The first of the 4 quarterfinal games for the boys gets underway at 10:05 Saturday morning. Let's look at the matchups for the 1988 Eastern Maine Class A tourney.
The first boys matchup will be number 6 Nokomis against number 3 Waterville. Jim DeFrederico has really turned Nokomis around. This group will see the tournament for the first time, but you can expect a poised team. They move the ball well and always seem to get off a good shot. Waterville will be their opponent. The number 3 Panthers entered the tournament in the same position as last year when they went on to win the Eastern Maine title. A veteran bunch led by Peter Gursky, the money player who can play inside and outside. The second boys game next Saturday will have the 2 rivals, Bangor and Brewer, meeting face-to-face at 2:05. The 2 teams played each other last night in Brewer, and the Witches came from 9 points down in the final minute to win it. Brewer clawed their way to a 10-8 record under first-year coach Mark Savage. Bangor once again has an abundance of talent. The twin towers of Paul Butler and John Stewart can cause a lot of problems for opponents. The play of the guards has made the Rams into a real threat. Coney and Mount Blue will take the court right after Bangor and Brewer. The 2 teams met in Augusta just 9 days ago, and Coney held on for a 59-57 win. Shane Todd leads the Rams, who have a solid inside game. Gary Bayou is in his first year as Coney coach. Mount Blue has possibly the best big man in Eastern Maine in Paul Searle. Searles can control a game if he comes to play. The Cougars can beat you from the outside, too. And the last game of the day will have Presque Isle matched up against #1 seed Florence. The Wildcats don't have a lot of size, but they work as hard as anyone. Presque Isle was the best team in Class A in the first third of the season.
Only one team from Eastern Maine has won 2 championships in the 80s, only to lose both state finals. But Coach Mike McGee enters the 1988 Eastern Maine tournament with the team to beat.
The Lawrence boys basketball team has been good the last couple of seasons. Not great, but good. Entering the tournament 2 years ago as the 7th seed, the Bulldogs played their best basketball of the season in the Bangor Auditorium. 9-9 in the regular season, but an Eastern Maine championship to take home in March. A year ago, they were again the 7th seed, but were dumped in the quarterfinals by #2 Bangor. This year is different. Only 2 are back from the 1986 championship teams, but these Bulldogs are the first ever to finish the regular season #1.
There's a lot more team unity this year, and being #1, we have a lot of confidence in each other and in the team, and also the coach, so we feel a lot more confident in winning the Eastern Maine Championship.
Work ethic is what separates Lawrence from the others. Coach Mike McGee teaches what he learned as a player. The way to win games is through tough defense.
We'll always be in the game probably because of our defense, but as long as we shoot well, and we'll beat any team as long as we shoot well, you know.
The 2 games we've lost is because we haven't played defense, so as long as we go up there, play defense, we'll be all set.
Offense isn't a problem, though, for the Bulldogs. This group can score in a hurry. But Coach McGee knows he doesn't have all the shooters in Class A.
So I think this year is wide open, and I think that all teams from 1-8 have a shot to win, and I think that basically being #1 means we had a very successful regular season, but I don't think we'll dominate the tournament.
We put the pressure on all the other teams because we're #1, and we feel there's no pressure on us. All the pressure's on them because they're playing against a top-seeded team, and, you know, we're just usually relaxed, and we've been there before, so we'll be relaxed for the tournament.
Relaxed is the name of the game for Lawrence. They seem to thrive on the big games. This Lawrence team may be the one that proves to be great.
We expect to win it, but we're going to play loose like we always do and play hard, and whatever happens, happens.
One team that could likely keep the Bulldogs from going all the way are the defending Eastern Maine champs, the Waterville Panthers. Head coach Kenny Lindlof now joins us live from Waterville. First of all, Kenny, congratulations as being the #3 seed this year.
Thank you very much, Tim.
And I want to ask you, there seems to be a lot of parity in the Class A Eastern Maine ranks. You think any team from top to bottom can win this tournament?
I think it's pretty much wide open. I have to agree with Mike's assessment. You have to go with Lawrence, I guess, as a favorite. They've proved this year that they're deserving of the #1 seed. Mount Blue, Coney from our league are awful tough. They're big people, and they're awful tough inside. Bangor's a tough inside team. And some of the lower seed teams like Nokomis, Presque Isle, and Brewer are quick teams that really go after you, too. So I think it's pretty much wide open.
Kenny, Class A divided in half with 8 of the teams coming from the KVAC and 8 of them also coming from the Big East. Bangor, #2, and they're the top Big East team. But 4 of the top 5 teams are from the KVAC. Is it a much better conference, do you think?
It's tough. You just can't take, there's no night off in our league. Every team comes after you real tough. And every night really is a war. So I think it really prepares you well for the tournament. Bangor is an excellent team also. We get a chance to play them. So our schedule is really tough, and that could help us once we get into the auditorium.
Kenny, you got a state title in 1985, an Eastern Maine title in 1986. Can this team coming up this year win a title?
Absolutely no way, Tim. There's absolutely no way we can win it. We're just happy to be there. I don't have to pay to get into the gym to watch the games.
Thanks very much for joining us, Kenny, and we'll see you next Saturday against Nokomis.
Okay, Tim. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.
Hi, we're the Sunshine Minutemen cheerleaders. Welcome back to Tournament Countdown 88, Class A.
As was the case with the boys, there's nothing too shocking about the #1 girls team in Eastern Maine Class A. As a matter of fact, the Final 8 have been there most of the last week of the season. Now we find out just where they all ended up.
Last year's state champs from Augusta are undefeated again this season. Coney has now won their last 40 games. Stearns has led the rest of the pack most of the way. Caribou closed the gap with a win over Stearns last Wednesday. Mount Blue is in the 4th spot of the final standings. Skowhegan heads the second half of the tournament teams. Brewer is number 6, and Waterville in the 7th spot. Lawrence has the same record, 10-8, that Stearns had 2 years ago when they won the Eastern Maine title.
Traditionally, it's number 6 versus number 3 to open up the tournament, not long after sunrise. This year is no different.
The early risers will be the girls from Brewer and Caribou, who will jump it up at 8:35. Paul Soucy's Witches have had their best regular season in years and have done so with a relatively young squad. The Witches won 14 games this year, and that's 2 more than number 3 Caribou. But the Vikings have all kinds of tradition and tourney experience. Impact players range from 5'1" Lynn Hartley to 6'1" Heather Belanger. Caribou has made the Eastern Maine Championship game in 3 of the last 4 years. The last game of the morning session, a week from today, will have Waterville against number 2 Stearns. The Panthers won Eastern Maine 3 years ago and may be a sleeper in this year's tourney. Not the size as in years past, but they've gotten better as the year went on. They'll be up against the tough team in number 2 Stearns. The Stearns girls surprised everybody with an Eastern Maine title 2 years ago, and it seems as though everyone is still there. A very aggressive and athletic team. The 4-5 matchup gets underway at 5:05. It'll be Skowhegan against Mount Blue. Number 5 Skowhegan has the kind of team that scares people, even undefeated Coney. A week ago in Skowhegan, the Indians came within 4 points of Coney, and Coach Jim McMichael has his girls well schooled. They'll be up against Mount Blue. Rachel Austin has her Cougars peaking at the right time. 1,000-point scorer Jody Yeaton is just one of the shooters who can fill up the net. And the last girls' game of the day will feature Lawrence against number 1 Coney. The 2 teams met last night in Augusta, and the Bulldogs fell by 15. Darcy Pomeroy will have to have a big game, as well as Kathy Richards, for Lawrence to stay close.
Paul Vachon's Lady Rams have lost 3 games in the last 3 years, and as Alan Audette tells us, Coney comes to Bangor confident but cautious.
Watch closely, for this is the last time a girls' basketball team from Coney High School lost a game, regular or postseason. It was a heartbreaking Eastern Maine championship loss to Coney's number 1 nemesis, Stearns, in 1986. But that was 2 years and 40 games ago. In 1988, Paul Vachon's Lady Rams go into the Class A tourney at a familiar spot, having won every game they played again this season. The Eastern Maine tournament is not something new to Coney, and it is nothing new to these players. Every one of Coney's starters was part of the 1987 undefeated team, a team that surprised many skeptics with an upset win over Portland last March. And while most teams work just to get to Bangor, Coney has one word, and only one word, on its mind: repeat.
That's our main goal, because anything else wouldn't be as good as it was last year, so we have to repeat.
To watch Coney play the game is to see how competitive and sophisticated girls' high school basketball has become in Eastern Maine. And this team knows that to be the best in Eastern Maine, it has to play like the best.
We really work hard together, and our defense is really starting to come together.
Well, we're going to have to play like a team. We're going to have to hit our 3-point shots and just do what we've done all year.
Hey, you know, we're a tough team, and everybody's out to get us. We're number 1.
Hard work has been our goal all year. We came through again tonight.
Besides talent and a little bit of luck, the winning teams are the healthy teams. And for Coney, 1988 had been that kind of year, until Tuesday night. Senior forward Joanne Levesque, averaging more than a dozen points and rebounds per game, was sidelined with a sprained ankle during the second half of Coney's game with Skowhegan. Prospects are that she'll be ready next Saturday. But Vachon and his team knows that one player does not a championship team make. And despite this week's less-than-welcome setback, the Lady Rams appear ready for the tournament. And, they say, ready to repeat. This is Alan Audette for Tournament Countdown 88, Class A.
Another great year for the Stearns girls hoop team, too, and their coach joins us now, Jerry Burley. Congratulations, first of all, for ending the tournament number 2.
Thank you, Tim.
I want to ask you about the last time Coney lost a basketball game in the Eastern Maine Championship game 2 years ago now. Still have some memories of that contest?
Yeah, we play it back every once in a while, especially last year. We hope to play them again this year if we play well.
They've won 40 straight, Coney now has. Can anyone stop them? You don't play them in the regular season, but I'm sure you've had a look at them this year.
I think Paul feels the same way I was about going number 1, that there's 8 teams in that tournament, and just like in the boys, there's a lot of teams that don't make it when they go in number 1. There's a lot of pressure on them, but they're certainly the team to beat. They're outstanding, and the three-point shooting is unbelievable.
You meant Paul Vachon mentioned it between the Colby games this afternoon, which we had on television, that he took over 300 three-point shots. Not the case with Stearns. You don't use that often.
I think we took 3 this year, so they're a little ahead of us on that. But yeah, 300 shots, and we made 100 of them or more. So that's an outstanding feat for a girls' team, or a boys.
Veteran unit back with you this year, but just another tough road, even as the number 2 seed. You got Waterville to start out with, and there's some excellent teams in Class A girls.
I think there's some pretty good balance, and the Kennebec League, of course, had a lot more teams, 5 in there this year. But like Waterville's a fine team. We watched them play the other night. They're big and strong, and they're going to be very tough for us inside.
You came in 9th last year and just missed the tournament. Are they a little bit hungrier this year, you think, Jerry?
Yeah, I think that early in the season we decided it wasn't fun staying home and watching it on TV. So we had an outstanding season, 14 wins, and we'll hope that we can go back and play like we did earlier in the year.
Jerry, thanks very much for joining us, and good luck next Saturday against Waterville.
Thank you.
Okay, coming up, more Tournament Countdown 88, Class A. Do stay with us.
Hi, we're the Bangor High Ram cheerleaders. Stay tuned for more Tournament Countdown 88, Class A.
Coverage of the Eastern Maine Class A tournament will be bigger and better than ever in 1988. George Hale, Joe Carr, Mike Hale, and Dan White lead WABI TV's broadcast crew, both here on Channel 5 and on WABI AM 91. We hope you'll join us regardless of whether your team is playing or not, because there's an excitement with the high school hoop for fans all over Eastern Maine. Don't forget, we'll have every Eastern Maine Class A playoff game live right here on Channel 5, beginning with a big 8-game day next Saturday, February 27th. And that'll do it for Tournament Countdown 88 Class A. Special thanks to our guests and to the players, cheerleaders, and fans that made it all possible.
Nobody can do
Tournament Countdown 88 has been brought to you by Grant's Dairy. When it's as fresh can be, it's got to be Grant's naturally. R.H. Foster Incorporated, Hamden, Machias, Lisbon, and Caribou. You'll be comfortable with us. Beale College. Your future's looking up at Beale College. And by the Coca-Cola Bottling Company. Catch the tournament wave with Coke.